meeting to order. Renee, if you would show all present except for Mr. Satterley. Before we join in the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to ask everyone to please join in a moment of silence out of respect for 8-year-old Martin Richard, 29-year-old Crystal Campbell, another yet unnamed victim, and all the other 176 folks that were injured in yesterday's Boston bombing. So if you would join us in a moment of silence for them, please. Thank you. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I don't believe we have any proposed amendments to the agenda tonight. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve as presented, please.
I so move.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 6-0. Thank you. Oh, Mr. White made the motion. Mr. Hall seconded. That's okay.
It's my fault.
All right, so we've approved the motion. We've approved tonight's agenda. We don't have any public comments, correct, Renee? All right, so we do need to approve tonight's consent agenda, and Mr. White has asked to separate the claims from items 2 through 5 so that he can vote on that separately. Need a motion in that form, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Pavey. So we will go ahead and take all in favor? 6-0. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and take claims separately. Is there a motion to approve the claims as presented?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of approving tonight's claims? And opposed? And an abstention. All right. Thank you. Did you get that, Renee? All right. Thank you. So next we have items 2 through 5. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 6-0. Thank you. We also have gifts to buildings. Mrs. Kraft, would you like to recognize our donors, please?
Since Kevin's not here, I guess, and I hate it because it's New Washington. New Washington, American Legion Post gave $150, and New Washington got from the Charlestown VFW Men's Auxiliary $100, and the Clark County Jail and the Commissioner's Fund, Commissary Fund. Oh, they ate a lot because it's $2,000. And from Dwayne and Jeanette Zippy Tilton Space wheelchair, all right, for special needs kids, totaling $5,750. Good for them. Thank you very much. We appreciate every dime.
So, Mrs. Kraft, would you move to accept those gifts?
I would.
All right, thank you.
Make a motion to do that.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any other discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. That's 6-0. So we'll move on to action items, and our first one, we have a memo of understanding with our lead custodians. Is that right?
That's correct.
Go ahead, Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you. When we did site-based management a few years ago, the need for a lead custodian in the building became pretty obsolete. So when we did our last bargaining session with our custodians, we took the name and the title lead custodian out of the collective bargaining agreement. With the return of a more centralized management concept that we're using nowadays, we have determined that we really do need a person or more than one, maybe 2 persons depending on the shift, to serve in our buildings that have 5 or more custodial staff. As the the person that kind of coordinates the evening's activities or daily activities. These persons don't supervise one another. They are not management, but they serve as a lead custodian to kind of direct the work of the other custodial staff. We have negotiated with our custodial bargaining team. They met with us along with Mike Ehrlich, who is their local 15C rep from the ICWUCUFCW, that international organization. And we did come to an agreement that we would put lead custodians back into the contract. The amount of compensation above the regular pay scale is just a 0.25 cents, and that's already been in the contract as a salary schedule. We didn't delete that when we took out leads, and so we're going to put them back in to help us with the overall custodial functions in the buildings. We think it will make things flow more smoothly. So the superintendent's recommending that you approve the MOU with the custodial union to put lead custodial positions back in the collective bargaining agreement at this time, and we'll only be using those persons or naming those persons at like our middle and high schools, the locations that have 5 or more custodial employees. And right now we're going to start this kind of as a pilot at Jeffersonville High School, and then we'll expand from there as the need arises. So your approval is requested.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Any questions?
I will have to vote against this because I still believe in site-based management. I'm sorry, I'm not convinced.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. All in favor? And opposed? All right, that's 5-1. Thank you. Next, we have 1-year extension for our contract bus drivers.
That's correct. At the end of the 2012-13 school year, we have a variety of driver-owned contracts that are coming up for reconsideration. And at the same time, we're working, as you know, we have Mr. Gary Green as our director down there. We have Mr. Ken Watson down there working on our VersaTran programming. So we're really trying to get a handle on what routes we need, what routes we don't need, but we don't believe we'll be in a position before the end of this school year or the start of the next school year to have all of those bus transportation issues resolved. So what we are asking for those persons whose contracts were coming up for to be rebid, we ask and offer them a 1-year renewal on their existing contract based on the same price increase that they have previously been enjoying. And we had 8 individuals that have agreed and to accept the 1-year extension on their contract in order to give us the opportunity to fully implement our VersaTran programming and fully determine our transportation needs both in our local community here and especially out in our county where the majority of our contract drivers are. So the recommendation this evening would be to approve the extension of the contract-owned equipment drivers for the transportation of students for a 1-year period of those 8 persons named in the board docs.
Thank you, Sandy. Is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions?
Sandy, were all these folks agreeable to this extension?
Yes, these are all agreeable. We did have a few that were not agreeable. I think we had like maybe 12 or 13 routes actually that were coming up for bid, so we will have to bid a few of them, but these were agreeable to work with us.
Okay, so there's actually more than this, it's just these.
There's more than that that's coming up for rebid, but these were the ones that were agreeable to the 1-year extension.
Okay.
Some of the others are just not going to drive buses anymore.
And that's correct.
Yes.
Some of those are not.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor? All right, that's 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the one-to-one computer initiative.
Board, I'm just going to make a few preliminary comments, and then we have a great presentation for you this evening. The one-to-one computer initiative is something that when we hired Brett Clark as Director of Technology, I said to Brett, one of the first things I'd like you to do is look at the possibility of us going to some form of one-to-one initiative. And please take the time you need to come up with a recommendation that makes sense. Please consider all the variables, obviously the financial piece, the hardware that would be necessary, how are we going to train our staff appropriately, how are we going to sustain it. And I said, take your time. Well, I didn't really say take your time, but he ended up, he has done a great job of facilitating this process. I'm very proud of Amy and I'm proud of Brett and of all of our people. So I'll turn it over and let them present this to you this evening.
Thank you. We are. It's been a long time since we've been as excited about a project as we are right now. And I'm going to just start and give just a little bit of history and then turn it over to Brett. I just wanted to remind kind of the board and the public that in January of 2012, we really started talking about some of the work that we had been doing in the corporation around instruction and professional development, around student engagement and ways that we could improve teacher effectiveness, efficiency, and really the fact of how we could engage kids better in the classroom. We were working at that time on our infrastructure. We started in January 2012, and if you look back at the minutes, every month, I wish Mr. Satterley was here because he asked for it every month, we would give updates of where we were in terms of that infrastructure, setting up the corporation to at least allow for, at a minimum, a bring-your-own-device kind of environment. We knew kids had some devices, but in the back of our minds, we knew that we needed to set an infrastructure in place where we were leveling the playing field for all kids and providing an environment that provided teachers with that level playing field so that they could provide the best instruction in a very well-supported environment. When Dr. Mullen came on, we don't remember the conversation about take your time. He had specific goals, and luckily he had a vision and saw kind of in working with what we had in place that we were ready. We had a project in Charlestown, and we knew that whatever our next step was going to be in a one-to-one, that the next step had to include the entire corporation. It could not just be limited to one section. And so with that and the hiring of Brett, and I've said this to our principals when Brett made this presentation, I've been working on technology for 17 years that I've been here, and early on in my career, you know, you're excited, you're a user, and then you kind of get on the administrative side and you get lost in the dollars and the cents and the drawings, and sometimes you lose that vision. I'm so excited to have Brett on board, who has brought that vision back for us, and I'm excited for him to kind of share the work that he's done in a very short amount of time and what we have for the kids here and set up for next year. So we're hoping that you will approve what this plan looks like at the end, and we have a nice presentation for you. So with that.
By the way, Brett, you're looking very dapper tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I tried this myself. I'm really proud. When you gain a skill like tying a bow tie, you can't just leave that skill sitting around. You got to use it every now and then. And you know, first of all, I want to thank board. First of all, you and Dr. Mellon and Amy for giving me this great opportunity to come here. My wife and I and our 3 kids have had this a great transition to this area. And we were talking about today, just up in Scott and Jason's office, that I can't believe I've only been here since January. I feel like I've been here for a long time, and it's just not because it feels like a long time being here, but because it just feels natural being here. And you know, I think it has to do with the county being named after me, and you know, the school district being named after me. I appreciate all these things. No. So anyway, you have to just deal with my humor. I was in a high school class at Jeff High today with Scott Horain and their students, and I don't get to be in front of students near as often as I used to be, and much as I like to be, and so they had to deal with a couple of my bad jokes. I apologize in advance for any bad jokes I tell today. I do want to say before we get into our presentation, my team is kind of scattered now. They're upstairs helping us with the demo we're going to do here in a little bit with a couple of students, one a 4th grader, and then also from Pleasant Ridge, and then a junior from Jeff High involved in the presentation today. as well as one of our principals involved in our presentation today. But before I get into that, some of our STCs are here, and also, I guess, kind of a former STC because he's helping out with transportation. So our three STCs that are here, could you guys stand up real quick? They have put in some tireless work, and I've been just all over them because, like Amy said, I don't remember the take your time conversation. And so I really, these three and all of our STCs, I wish more of them could have been here tonight, but our STCs work so hard, and they not only are they involved as teachers, our librarians are involved in this work and so many other things around our district. And I couldn't have this presentation tonight if it wasn't for their work that we've done for the last few months. Thank you guys, we appreciate it. And so I'm gonna walk us through our timeline from the timeline from when I've been here. So we're gonna go to our next slide. So January 28th, I had completed kind of what I called my month of learning. I went and visited every school in the district, talked to every principal, got tours, met teachers, met students, talked to people. And on January 28th, we had our first STC meeting with our school technology contacts, and we discussed iPads, Chromebook, and services. And this presentation that's attached, those links are live. Obviously, in your paper copies that you have, you can't click the links, but on the regular documents, you can. It'll take you to the presentation from that day, laying out that when we started this work, and even before I came here, these were the three front runners to begin with. The iPad that has made so many waves in education, the Chromebook, this up-and-comer, and the Surface had really, honestly, just really been introduced, and wasn't really a lot known about it, but it was worth exploring because we wanted to look at different platforms, what they had to offer. And what the Surface had to offer, quite frankly, was really a lot of ease and ease because of our schools being such PC schools. That's one reason why we really looked at the Surface, because it matched with the PC world that we already have in a lot of our Greater Clark schools. So that's why it was brought to the table to begin with. So then, after that, our STCs, within a week or so, got either an iPad, a Chromebook, or a Surface. We divided them out among our STCs with the idea that they would take them back to their schools, use them in the classroom, get them in kids' hands, get them, some of our STCs are parents of kids in the district, so they have that kind of dual role. I encourage them to share with other teachers, other parents, other students, and then begin to have a discussion about what the best thing would be for our students and for our community. And so then on February 25th, District Articulation, I spoke with the teachers from grades 6 through 12 in the cafeteria there at Jeff High about the devices. We got feedback from the attendees, and probably I'd tell you our biggest takeaway from that particular day was that everyone knew what the iPad was. And some people knew what Chromebooks were, and people had seen the neat commercial that the Surface had. And that was pretty much the extent of where everyone was with those three devices. I did a simple thing, just fist to 5. Fist means you knew nothing about it, and 5 means you sleep with one on your pillow at night next to your head. And when I said the iPad, 3 to 5 all across the board, I mean, some people had both hands up, I think, and just because they had iPad and iPad 2. And then when I got to the Chromebook, 2s and 3s, and Surface, a bunch of fists were in the air. And so that gave us some good things, because I want to make sure we had a good level of discussion. So I knew the iPad we knew the most about, and so I wanted to help us have a level footing. So I started doing a lot more research in Chromebook and sharing a lot more about the Chromebook, as well as sharing more about the iPad and research about the Surface. That's right, because there's always one in every class, right? And so anyway, so I wanted to make sure that we had a level playing field and we understood all three devices. And so on the 27th, February, we had an all-day STC meeting. We had guests from the IDOE, Candace Dodson, who is the director of e-learning, was part of this day. And then also Jason Bailey, who is the lead e-learning strategist for the state of Indiana, both of who I worked with in Evansville, came to this meeting, spent the entire day with their STCs, really having just some really great conversations throughout the day. Each group who had their device shared their thoughts on the device, shared their concerns, what they liked about it, what they were worried about it, and we really wanted to make sure that everyone had a voice and had a chance to share. Every school, whether you were a small school, all the way up to obviously our largest is Jeff High. And then we also brought in an expert from each area, Kyle Pace, who is an expert in Google. He's a Google certified teacher, Google certified trainer. He teaches out in Missouri, does technology integration for his school system. He was named Education Week, named him one of the 13 people in America that's worth learning from in 2013. So just a great resource. And Kyle and I have known each other for about 2 years now. We've become friends through our connections on social media, through Twitter, and different conferences that he and I have been at. So Kyle joined us through a Google Hangout, and then also Patrick Larkin, who is the assistant superintendent for BPS School, which is out in the Boston area, actually. He was a former principal. While he was principal, he started an iPad one-to-one initiative in his school system, and then as assistant superintendent was helping lead their technology innovation in their district. So I wanted our teachers to be able to have a conversation with experts in the field. And we didn't find a Surface person to talk to because the Surface and it's still extremely new. It was so new that when we contacted them about educational pricing, they said, we'll have to get back to you on that. That's just how new the Surface was. And at that day, we just said, Surface wasn't up to the task. Our STCs that are here can tell you that I felt bad for the STCs that I gave a Surface to, because it wasn't ready yet. And maybe it will be one day. It just wasn't. It's not ready for us now. And so again, there's some notes in there. You can go through that link and you can see the concerns people had, the questions that they raised, and some really great conversations were brought on from that day. And so continuing on, I want to again make sure I touch with everybody on different topics. So I met with the librarians. They asked me to come to their monthly meeting. We discussed one-to-one. We tested the e-reader capability on a Chromebook. Obviously, the iPad is kind of built as an e-reader, so we all know its capability, but we wanted to make sure that the Chromebook wasn't just going to work in our academic core classes, but we want to make sure it worked for our librarians, our media center specialists, in all aspects. We want to make sure that it was the right device for us. So March 6th, I went out to New Washington, and I spent an evening out there. And I say evening because apparently librarians like to discuss a lot of things, because we were out there till about 6:30 that night, and just testing e-readers. It was a great conversation, but it was a lot of fun. So excellent. And so then on March the 20th, at STC meeting, and I did my very best to address as many concerns of the iPads and the Chromebooks as I could. We researched STCs, emailed me links. We had discussion. I sent questions out on Twitter. I emailed other school districts, talked to other district leaders, and talked to leaders from iPad and from Google, and said, here are our teachers' concerns about these two devices. Help us out. And we discussed, really, as Dr. Mellon said, all these things that we need to make sure we looked at. We talked about device management, professional development, cost, the tool as a teaching and learning device. And so the overall consensus at the end of the day was that the Chromebook is the option that gives our district the best chance to have success, be sustainable in our one-to-one program. And again, you can see a link to our presentation from that day as well. And so that's the timeline. And I want to touch on a couple other topics here before we get into our demonstration. And so, Renee, there's 6 things that we want to kind of click through till the last one. So this is what I've been kind of discussing since January. Before I came on board, I was asked by a group called Smart Blogs to write a blog on education about developing one-to-one initiatives, and because they knew I was coming in this position. And I came up with these my 6 pillars of a one-to-one initiative. That first of all, this has got to be a learning initiative. I shared this with our teachers, shared it with STCs, principals, anyone that really will take time to listen to me talk about one-to-one. How I feel about it is the first thing is it's got to be about learning. Our kids have our students have got to leave our classrooms as lifelong learners. And if they're not that, then we're doing our students a disservice. And so this has got to be a learning initiative. But in order for that to happen, these other things got to be in place as well. We got to have professional development. One big takeaway from my tours of all the buildings was, we've had good PD in the past. We just haven't had enough of it. And our teachers have told me time and time again, we got some good PD. It just wasn't continuous PD. So we're going to have this, especially talking to our Charlestown teachers and Mr. Hall, you would know going through your time there as well. Good PD, people like Mr. Watson who helped out and did everything that they could. If we're going to do this on a large scale, we have to have professional development. Our infrastructure has got to be in place. My team has worked tirelessly to get the infrastructure up to where it needs to be. There's some things that at Jeff that we have still need to address, and we're going to. We have a plan, and we're looking more at it. But it's nothing major. But it's to be pretty easy to address. But that'll be for another day and time. And digital citizenship. Our students are going to have this device in their hand, and they're going to have tremendous amount of access to information, access to a vast world and more than they ever had before, and at least on an entire scale. And so we've got to teach our kids how to be good digital citizens, and that's going to be a staple of our one-to-one program, is developing a good digital citizen program so that we don't have to lock everything down, so that we can trust our students and trust our staff to make good decisions. But good decisions don't happen unless you teach them how to make good decisions. And so we're going to have a digital citizenship program that's going to help our students out. And I still believe in choice. I've mentioned this here before. Choice is a big deal to me, because we want to provide a learning platform for everyone. We've talked a lot in Evansville about equity and excellence. We want to have be that premier provider of education here at Greater Clark. In order to do that, we've got to provide everyone with premier access and the premier device. And so we can do that through the Chromebook. But on top of that, our kids are still going to have great access to their own devices. And if there's something because there is no silver bullet in education. There isn't one teaching style that works for everybody. There isn't one textbook that works for everybody. There isn't one technology piece device that works for everybody. And so if our student comes across a project and they say, I have this at home that'll help me learn this content and be a better creator of content, we want to give our students choice in those things. So while the Chromebook will be for everybody, if a kid says, can I pull my phone out and use it to take some pictures with this? Yeah, you're following good digital citizenship. We're going to continue to encourage those things. Our students do those things now. There's no need to stop doing those things that are good teaching and good learning. And then the last thing, and it's so important, is time and patience. And I told our principals, I told our teachers that we need to continue to have time and patience in this. You do not transform teaching overnight. You just don't. It's a process. And I've encouraged principals to set reasonable expectations. We're going to help them with that. We had a great conversation last Wednesday with Jason Roseberry, who works for 5-Star Technology. He's a strategic partner for the IDOE. We had an admin academy on Wednesday, and we had a great conversation with other leaders from other school districts about how to help develop a way to, I hate to use evaluate, but to have the right kind of discussions with teachers about their use of technology in the classroom. And so we know that takes time and patience. There are going to be some mega users that grab it and run and just, there's those what we call the digital natives. Then there are the other ones we talked about on Wednesday about digital immigrants, and it'll take more time for them, and that's okay. We're going to have time. We're going to have patience. Nobody has to be an expert on day one, but what we want from everyone is everyone making progress. And so we're going to give people time and patience. So these are 6 things that I'm going to be constantly preaching to everybody, and that I think are going to be real important. And so, so I'm going to kind of fly through this because I don't want to take too much time tonight. But when we looked at the iPads, kind of, you can pull up things on the screen, a couple of things on here. We talked about these, 4 things: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity. iPad offers free apps, but really those first 4 things. Critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, that doesn't come from a device. That comes from good teaching. And so when we looked at those things as pros, the iPad helps enhance those. But those 4 things don't come from a device. It comes from strong professional development, great leadership from our principals, and amazing teaching from our teachers, and then hard work and dedication from our students. So you can go on. We looked at Chromebooks. Really the same thing. We talked about Chromebook gives us access to allow our teachers to do critical thinking activities, communication, collaboration, creativity. Chromebooks offer Google Docs. We'll see that here in a little bit. Chrome extensions and apps. We'll show you those. The full keyboard, which is important because our students, until the state wakes up and does otherwise, has to take all these exams, and because of that, they have to have a full keyboard. And because with an iPad, we can provide full keyboards. I've seen most of you that have your iPads that have, sometimes have a case with a keyboard. But as we'll see here in a second, that adds tremendously to the cost of it. But again, the important things on that list are not the Google Docs and Chrome apps. It's the critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity, those 21st century skills that our students have to be successful. And those don't come from a Chromebook. Those come from our teachers. Our teachers are already doing those 4 things. But this piece of technology will help give them greater access and a stronger ability to do those 4 things. And also, as Amy mentioned earlier, the level of engagement that we can do through technology is be extremely helpful for us. Speaking of the iPads, again, it's well known. Lots of resources are out there. Schools use iPads over years. That was all good. A con from it is that if I couldn't get the device to before May, then our teachers weren't going to get a device. It would be tough to get the iPads in and set up in time for them to have it. Just the reality of it. When we looked at the PD with the Chromebook, again, it's one of our pillars of this. It's mainly composed of web browser, which means that you can practice using Google Chrome on a desktop, laptop, or on a Chromebook. I have Google Chrome on my phone that I can do things with. And so there's certain aspects of it that allow me to help lead professional development that can start as early as tomorrow. And so there were some cons to it, not known as well. There are a tremendous number of schools moving towards them, but not as many have used them for a long amount of time. Now, again, schools up in Indianapolis right now that are ready to introduce. They have Pete Just, who's up there, Ben Davis area. They're ready to get 3,000 Chromebooks, so he's a great resource. Pete's a great guy, and I have good contact with him. And Dr. John Keller, who formerly was with the IDOE, is now working in Wayne Township. Dr. Keller and I have been friends for a couple of years, and they're ordering Chromebooks, so he's another great resource that I have. And so, we have the resources. They're maybe not as well known to everybody, but they're out there, and we have the connections to get to them. So I'm just trying to show you that this is not a knee-jerk reaction of what we're doing up here tonight. I'm trying to show the different things that we have. We've looked at infrastructure-wise. They're both managed with a lot of similarities as far as monitoring, managing the devices. Biggest difference on the iPad, you have to touch every device. But you need a SIM card and a MacBook. If you approve this tonight, when our Chromebooks come in, they'll come in a box. We'll have an asset tag on the outside, an asset tag on the device. They'll already be synced to our Wi-Fi, synced to our management system. It's called their white glove treatment. Our techs, which we don't have enough of them, but our techs, they will be able to take the box off the truck, hand it to a kid, we'll scan it to that kid to sign it to them, and they'll be the first one to touch it. They'll open it out of the box, they'll put their hands on it, open it up, they'll be able to sign in, and it'll be good to go. And it's called their white glove treatment, and it's going to save us hours of time, 7 devices. I've gone through the whole imaging process, and every year that I was in Evansville, we always were trying to race the clock. Are we going to have these devices ready to go in August? That was always our topic. I'll be honest with you. I remember last year we had a school that they had to wait an extra week because we couldn't get the devices to them in time because we were imaging every one of them. And this was so appealing to our techs, our staff, and it's what's best for our students, especially with our short summer, and that's starting the balanced calendar next year. I want to guarantee that we get them in their hand right away. And then we can kind of flip through these. You can look at these some in your own time. I will touch on a couple things here. People question the durability of the device. We're going to be able to have a 3-year warranty, accidental damage insurance. Every one of these devices will have 3-year warranty on them, and it'll be basically there's as close to bumper-to-bumper insurance that you can have. And so if a kid drops it, it's gonna get fixed. If it's on the table, it's plugged in charging, the dog runs by, knocks it off, and the screen gets cracked, it's gonna get fixed. Whatever kind of accidental damage, as long as there's not negligence, the device is gonna get fixed with no deductible cost to the district, and it's a great insurance policy, and under warranty all 3 years of the lease that we're proposing tonight. And so the only thing that the insurance will not cover is if it's stolen or lost, and if that is the case, then that's something that we'll work with those parents to try to get our money back for that device. But we're also going to have, during our parent nights this summer, a representative of the insurance group that we're going with, Worth Avenue, the same insurance group that we used in the Charlestown project, and they'll be at our parent night, and our parents will be able to get a 1-year policy for theft for just $12, or they can buy a 3-year policy for $31. And so our parents will be able to get that insurance at a very reasonable rate. And of course, we can also tell our parents, if they want to go home, call their own insurance agent up, add it to their homeowner's insurance, add their Chromebook, the theft part of it, to their renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, then they can do that. They can insure it. That's up to them. That was a way for us, I think, to save costs. And I'll tell you, coming from Evansville, I worked as an e-learning coach in one of our lowest poverty schools. At the end of the year, I got every device back, and we didn't have a single one in that school. Now, as a whole, yeah, we had a few here and there, but not as many as people always think we're going to have. We dealt a lot more with this accidental damage issues than we did with stolen or lost issues. Especially when the parent moves and you call and say, we're going to send you this bill for this device, it tends to show up pretty quickly. And especially since the device will be marked, they'll be asset tagged, we'll make sure that all of our any pawn shop, people will know that these are our devices. And so they'll be looking to make sure that, so to help us, we'll work with our city and our community to make sure that these devices are not easily done away with, And so anyway, we talked about internet accessibility. If they have Wi-Fi at home, or if they have even just a USB hookup at home, they'll be able to use a Chromebook like any other device. These are some other questions that our teachers had about video editing capability, offline work, Java. So I show this. I wanted just a durability one because that's always a question for parents as well. But every concern we had, I feel like we've been able to come up with a viable solution to help. And again, no device is perfect, but we have a lot of solutions to a lot of the issues that people had concerns of. And we'll hit road bumps, of course we will. But we'll get through them. We got through these, and we'll get through other ones. Same thing, works best online. Every device works best if it has internet access. So it's going to be up to us to really make sure to do, as a whole, what they did really well in Charlestown, which was say, here are the places you can go and get free Wi-Fi. It's good for us to examine the possibility of working with, Verizon and other companies like that to say, hey, what can you do to help offer our parents internet access at a reasonable cost? School districts are working more and more with these things. We have a great partner upon your approval with Google, who's going to help us with all these things. And there is no perfect solution, but will we have kids who don't have internet access at home? Yes. Will the device not be as well able to be used without internet access? Of course not. An iPad wouldn't, a Chromebook wouldn't, a Surface tablet wouldn't, a Dell netbook wouldn't. There's not a single device out there that works better without the internet. Every device is better with the internet. And so it's up to us to help our students have access any way we can. Teachers ask questions about interactive whiteboards, Smart and Promethean, they're developing Chrome apps. Textbooks, it's always a big question. We are continuing to be able to use this device to reduce the number of textbooks. Every time textbook adoption comes up, we'll be able to address it. We'll be able to find a way to utilize the Chromebook to continue to reduce costs to our parents and to our district, and to I would love to see us be textbook free, and it would be a great way for us to go, and this is going to help us get there quicker. We can skip through the iPad ones. I put these on here just because I want you to show of the work that our team put into this. And again, next one's fine. So this is where we kind of came to. We went through all these things, and we said, you know what? There's not a ton of difference between these devices. If we were to put these on a scale, sometimes the iPad comes out ahead, sometimes the Chromebook comes out ahead, and a lot of times the Chromebook came out ahead. And so in the end, we started looking at cost. Well, the Chromebook itself costs $249 per device. This management piece, $30. What the management piece is, and that allows us to filter properly, it allows us to push out apps, allows us to restrict access in the ways that we need to be compliant with federal regulations, and allows us to monitor to keep our kids working in a safe environment. That's a one-time fee, $30 device per device. If a kid drops a device and they have to replace it, that we only pay $249 to replace that device. So if we have to replace a device, we don't have to cover the cost of the management. So if a device does end up lost or stolen, and a parent pays for and buys the new device, on behalf of the district, they pay for it so we can order it, then that $30 management piece is transferred over to that new device. So we only have to pay the $30 once per device that we get. And so we looked at cases, we looked at insurance with warranty with accidental damage, insurance without warranty. We looked at everything possible. And so with that, we came up with this solution. For Chromebook total cost, we're talking about $383 per device. That is the device, that's management, that's insurance with warranty. At 8,000 devices, which would cover grades 3 through 12, that's $2,984,000 for it. This is potential. This is the maximum cost to parents. Would have been as high as $9.75 per year. Now, when Amy gets up in a little bit, you'll see that we're nowhere near that. We're going to be able to do this for a lot cheaper to our parents and to our guardians. But under state regulation, we can charge 1/4 the cost of the device for parents. And so that's where that number comes from. So that's the maximum we would have been allowed to charge. But again, because of hard work of Amy, Dr. Deichel, Dr. Mellon, myself, we're able to keep this cost down. And you'll see that here in a second. On the flip side of things, iPad gave us a couple of different quotes because we wanted them to be competitive. This was their first quote to us. And you can see the numbers rack up pretty quickly. A lot quicker than they do on the other side. And it's not that the iPad isn't a good device. It is a good device. It's a powerful device. But if we're going to have a sustainable program, it's not the right device. So then we had iPad to come back. So now they came back with this offer, the iPad 2. So it's not their newest iPad. And they were able to reduce the cost pretty extensively. But even with their reduced cost, it's still over $4 million. Still over $1 million more for that. And plus, that is not a brand new device. That is their device, the iPad 2, that's already, they don't even sell them out in the regular market anymore. We only get those through as educators. And so we didn't want to offer our parents and our staff and our students an old device. We wanted to give them the latest technology, the best that's out there, and the iPad doesn't make sense for what we want to do. Because again, the iPad is not far enough ahead, in a lot of ways not ahead at all, of the Chromebook, and especially when you stack it up cost-wise. We want this to be sustainable. And I told our STCs and our principals, if we did this, this would be the only thing I probably ever did in the district, because I would have no more money to come back and do anything else. And I didn't want this to be my first and only initiative at Greater Clark. I want us to be able to continue to grow, continue to do more things, and do amazing things here. And the Chromebook gives us that flexibility. And so that's where we're at. So this next slide, and thank goodness I can stop talking. So I'm getting myself bogged down, bored to tears up here with all these numbers. So let's have some fun. So we're going to have some fun, because I like fun. And we're going to have a Google Hangout. And what a Google Plus Hangout is, it is a collaboration tool that comes with Google. And it is, first of all, have any of you ever heard of Google Plus Hangout before? Just a head nod in there. So I won't do fist to five or anything. But it is like Skype, but the only difference is it gives us the ability to have up to 10 people where we can collaborate on a document, we can share a screen, we can even watch a YouTube video together and converse during the YouTube video. There's a lot of things. So we have 4 participants. I just sent them an email, let them know that, yes, I'm finally done blabbing, and we can go on to this. And so we have Dalton, who is a 4th grader at Pleasant Ridge. We have Devin, who's a junior at Jeff High. Michelle Dyer, our guinea pig principal for this. And then Kevin Hodges, who you guys are going to absolutely fall in love with. He's our Google Chromebook team rep. He's phenomenal, and he has some great things to share with us. And so I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit while I get this set up over on the big screen over there, and be good to go.
One thing that we're really excited about the potential with this Hangout is we've been looking for a very long time for solutions on increasing our ability to provide distance ed opportunities for New Wash, to expand curricular opportunities, and we feel like this has a lot of potential, the Hangout. You can go on to the next slide. We wanted to talk just briefly about some other big picture items that kind of played into our decision making. Number one, free and reduced lunch. Brett kind of mentioned to you about the potential that what we could charge maximum in terms of with textbook rental. You know, some changes in state legislation. Doesn't matter how much as a district we charge for our students. We're almost at 60% now free and reduced lunch. We will only be reimbursed as a district for $75 per student. In the past, it used to be a percentage of the cost of the books. That all has changed. So we're dealing with flat numbers now from the state for reimbursement. That definitely contributes to the decision making. We are looking at a strategic plan, and number one, the strategic plan that has been completed and adopted. We wanted to find a plan that we could implement and sustain, number one, with grades 6 through 12, but ultimately, you know, the preference was to expand as much as possible. We want this technology in grades 3 through 12 at a minimum, and ideally we want it in the hands of all of our students. We wanted to talk a little bit about where the funding sources are going to come. We want to talk about Title I, and at the beginning of the year we talked that due to the flexibility waiver that the state of Indiana applied for, we no longer have districts that are under LEA obligations. Those dollars now, instead of going to supplemental services like Sylvan, those dollars go back to the schools now, and so we are serving 13 schools in the district instead of the 6 or 7 that we typically have. As a result, we're picking up, we have a little more money left over through carryover this year. It's kind of a one-time thing that will happen because of this transition, where we had anticipated paying kind of a lot of the whiteboards and some offset of some equipment through the Common School Loan. We're going to be able to pay for some of that through Title I for those 13 schools. It's going to help us for this one time, and we want to capitalize on that. You're going to hopefully approve the innovation grant, and part of that is some equipment money that'll help us with to get started with this. We have a Common School Fund loan that the second application happened to come out this week. We would love board approval. Those are low interest that are now coming out every 6 months for technology. It saves our CPF around technology and will help us that will really help our 2 years. These dollar sources will help us fund the first 2 years of this project right now. And then obviously we had the sellback revenue that served as our seed money. Brett had talked about his previous role as an e-learning coach and the need for us to deal. We cannot put these devices out there without supporting our teachers. What we are trying to do is adjust our current staffing patterns. We're not looking at adding staff, but what we have done is really to look at what our PTR, our people-teacher ratios are in our classes, and we've adjusted them to be able to pull some teachers out to say we have to have positions where we've got certified teachers who are providing professional development support to classroom teachers around this area of technology. Ideally, what we would like to have is 2 in the Jeffersonville area, targeting the elementaries that feed into River Valley and then to Jeff High, and then the elementaries that feed into Parkview and then the Jeff High, and then 1 who would target the Charlestown, New Washington. Their primary function would be to really transform teaching and learning, help teachers plan instruction, model good instruction using technology, and really serve as that resource to what's the newest thing out there, how will it help capitalize on my curriculum and instruction. Our implementation plan pending board approval, and you know, honestly, if this was an Apple rollout, I would be standing here broke out in more hives than I typically am in front of you, but because of it being a Google, and knowing that tomorrow, if you approve this, we can begin to push out professional development on our teacher current desktops. We can start tomorrow with that PD. I feel in such a better place. We would start pushing out our Chrome browser to our staff computers. They'll set up their accounts. The PD can start immediately upon your approval. In May, we can have, if you confirm this tonight, we can have our teacher computers delivered and rolled out. We would have during district articulations the week of May 13th, May 14th, 15th, and 16th. We would plan a rollout. Teachers would have their devices in their hands. So the next one. In June, we would set up 3 professional development days. Again, just training. I've never just experienced with Google so much support and willingness to be at everything that we had scheduled, and not asking us for a penny to do it, just being there. July will be the arrival of the Chromebooks, as Brett said, from our tech services department side, and this is a department that I've seen grown for 17 years, and when I say grow, it hasn't grown. Our units have grown, our staff has not grown, but this is such a huge piece that they can just come off the pallets and into the kids' hands. It's huge. We have a great conference that's already sold out on July 25th, and then we will start with parent conferences and parent rollouts starting in July. August, school starts and kids have devices in their hands. We're ready to go. That professional development would be ongoing. Obviously, we have period zeros, 3 days a week in our teacher contract, and again, the support, so the infrastructure is there in place. Before we wrap up, we kind of like to, like we said, show this demo. Brett, are you ready? Will the technology work?
It better. Yes, we got 3. So let me start here. We came up with some fun names before we do our testing. So there's Bill Gates. I know she doesn't Bill Gates, but it's on there. And Jason, did Mr. Stark, can I get his invite?
Yes, they're coming up now.
All right, okay, cool. When do you want to come in here and check on our principal guinea pig?
It's got the mute button on, Brett.
Oh, well, hey Dalton, up the top, where's the microphone? You,
Hey, I got it now.
and again, the feedback, sorry. I'm gonna mute myself. Alright, sorry, I mute myself because that's where the feedback's coming from. The speaker from the TV microphone of the computer causing feedback. Obviously, you don't usually go and do like this. If I was doing this at home, I'd have probably some headphones plugged in like a person from Google. Alright, so and then Kevin, can you introduce yourself?
Brett, I'm really sorry. I was really fast and echo in the background. Hello, everybody. Appreciate the time. Thanks for the opportunity.
You get apologize for my microphone. Let me type in something real quick. So I'm going to stay muted as possible. So as you can see, you have a chat screen off to the side here. And again, it'll probably like I'm blocking my camera by both sides here. But
What?
so I'm gonna stay muted as much as I can. But we're going to do it in a couple things. One of them is going to be looking at collaborating to a document, and I'm going to share with this on my thumb drive. We're collaborating on a document and have some good discussion. So again, let me try to do this as easy as possible. So I'm going to through my Google Drive, which is my shared storage here. I'm going to upload a document to them and pull out a USB that I have plugged into the back of it. And there's our principal. So this is a writing prompt I'm pulling up. And I'm going to give everyone access to it. And so now I'm going to tell them to click on Google Drive and to see what I've shared with them. Okay? So again, if I can, you're going to have to deal with the echo here for a second. All right, we're going to deal with our echo for a second. So go on Google Drive and take a look at our writing prompt for the day. And leave a comment in the chat area where you can see the document.
Last page,
So Devin, remember it's on the left side, click on Google Drive. Can you see it, Devin?
I got it.
Cool. Dalton?
Yep.
See it? How about you, Ms. Dyer? Can you see it?
Is it the Adobe document or?
Yes, the Adobe document.
Okay. Of course, it tells me I do not have access to that.
You're too, Brett.
You're gonna choose the bad one now.
I'm requesting access right now, Brett.
Alright. You see? Reloaded it.
Yes, I think I'm opening it right now.
telling us that, for those who can't read it, we're going to pretend we're Google, and we're on Google Image. Our writing prompt for today is, if we were to Google the word freedom in Google Images, what pictures do you think would pop up? So this would be a way for a teacher to share out a writing prompt for their students, and then now we're going to get to collaborate. And so I'm going to open up a document. So I can add, again, either a file I've uploaded, or I can create shared notes. So I'm going to create shared notes. And so you guys can see Hangout notes. Them in real time collaborating on this document. Now, for teachers, this is a pretty big thing. We ask students to collaborate all the time. Imagine our students being able to collaborate at Jeff High with the class at New Washington. Imagine teachers at New Washington being able to do a Google Hangout with teachers of the same content at Charlestown or in Jeff, without having to drive 15, 20, 30 miles one way. And this collaborative document, everyone can work on at the same time. You can type on it. And not that any student would ever do this, but maybe I might come along here. And delete everything that they just put on there. Wasn't very nice of it, was it? Cool thing is, though, because of Google, I can go on under File, see my revision history, and I can look and see what things have looked like in the past as it's saved it, and I can restore this session. Now, this looks like this was on the, had a little area for a second. So, I can restore everything. So even if somebody, more than likely accidentally, deletes somebody's presentation, or they delete their file, I can get the revision history. Google's constantly saving it to the cloud. And so they are then able to go back and see the revision history, get back what they wanted. As a teacher, a student can share a document with me. I can highlight this and leave comments. Again, I'm seeing that also they're all looking at my student jacket. That's no fun. And they can see comments from me as a teacher. I can highlight stuff and leave a sticky note off to the side. A lot of things. And Google also has in their arsenal Google presentation, which is like PowerPoint. It has Google Forms that teachers can use for quizzes and surveys. Clubs can use them to gather information, all kinds of things. I know at school in Evansville we use Google Forms to cast ballots for homecoming king and queen. You know, just little things and big transformative things. Google is great for it. And so you can do a screen share. I'm not going to do this right now because it's hooked up to the TV. It can't distinguish between the TV and the screen, so it bounces back and forth. We tried it earlier. It's rather annoying. I don't want to annoy you tonight any more than I sorry I've been on mute so we don't have a big echo, but why don't each of you, starting with our two students, Dalton, we'll start with you, and then Devin, and then whether you and this Dyer, why don't you share with us some of your thoughts about the device? So, Dalton, we'll start with you, buddy.
It's not.
So you can say it out loud.
Okay. It's like fun, like stuff like using homework. It's gonna like to do your homework because it's fun.
Okay, Devin, what do you think?
It's a better reading and like it is and this is a lot harder than tiny books, and we only have 5 minutes, so
For those of you who couldn't hear what Devin started to say, so it's a lot lighter than carrying around a big stack of books. And Michelle, I'm going to let you talk when you get in the boardroom, since you're just on the other side of the door over there. And so Dalton, Devin, Mrs. Dyer, you guys want to go ahead and exit the hangout? And then Kevin, if you're good to talk with us a couple more minutes, maybe with a little bit out of it, and we'll have to echo. So Dalton and Devin and Mrs. Dyer, I think you guys are doing this tonight. Exit out and come on back to the boardroom. Kevin, I'm going to close out. For those of you that didn't tell earlier, when we had everyone in here, without the document up there, whoever is talking, that's who goes to the big screen. So if you had 5 or 6 people, and whoever's kind of leading the discussion at that point in time, that's who picture pops up on the big screen. Or you could click on somebody down at the bottom and lock their screen in. So if I only want just to see us the entire time, I could lock it in like that. But again, as a classroom teacher, former classroom teacher, I think about all the different collaborative things I could do with documents, with presentations, with Google Spreadsheet. Anything that Microsoft Office basically has that we're used to, Google offers their version of it, and their version is generally better because of the collaboration piece. And then also you throw into it the Google App Store, which has a ton of different, there's thousands of apps in it. It's growing every day, and things that they offer. And so before Kevin goes, I want to give a chance. Kevin, can you maybe share with us a couple of the things that you have told us last week when we saw you last Thursday, and then share some of the things that you and I talked about today as far as with that Google's commitment and PR side of some of this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Brett, thanks again for the opportunity to get a few minutes of time tonight, and just giving me the floor. Just a few things first. Google Apps was first announced in October of 2006, and it's kind of taken on a world of its own. We've just seen so many adopters, 30 plus million global users in education. Those are folks that have actually logged in that are using Google Apps in the classroom within the last 30 days. Chromebooks, still a relatively new solution, announced June 2011, and again, continues to grow substantially. And partners that we can partner with that can, open up your school, allow instructional technologists, academia, teachers, principals to come in and see how you guys are using the Google technology in the classroom, to see how students are collaborating like we just did on a document, to see the smiles on their faces, to see the, carrying the 4 or 5, 6, books from class to class during the school period, but just throwing a Chromebook in a backpack and then they're on their way for the full class day. They get, 6.5, 7 hour battery life on the machine. So we're looking for partners like what Greater Clark can offer us here. And, from a PR perspective, from a marketing perspective, we want to, share with the community and the surrounding areas what you guys are doing with technology. So it's very, very important for us. And I was telling Dr. Nolan when I was there last week, I think Google needs you guys more than you need us. So we're just really looking forward to moving our initiative and our partnership along, and just keep close ties and communication as we roll these things out to your students, faculty, and staff.
Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Kevin's been great to work with. I don't think I've ever had a day where I've emailed him within 24 hours. He's gotten back with me, people from Augusto and DDI leasing and Worth Avenue. He's put me in contact with great people to help us put this initiative together. He's been great to work with, and he mentioned that the board approves all this. We've talked about this being somewhere in the it's fair to say in the top 10 deployment. Easily the top 10 in the nation for our deployments. I think it's a phenomenal thing that we have the opportunity to offer this to our community, to our students, to our staff, and Kevin's been phenomenal. Everything that we've thrown at him, like, can we help with this? Can we help with this? And Kevin's like, yes. And it's not. Google's been extremely genuine in their desire to help as educators, and we really appreciate Kevin's work he put into helping us devise all this, getting Chromebooks to us to test, working with our team on the names side of stuff. And so before Kevin goes, he's down in Texas, and we're paying a good amount of your time. Before we let Kevin go, I want to offer to the board, do any of you have any questions you'd like to ask Kevin before we say goodbye to him?
No.
We have left him speechless.
Okay, good.
All right. So I will text you later.
Okay.
Because I'm sure you're anxious to see how all this comes to conclusion at the end. But thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you to our students who stepped back in here as well, and to, of course, our Guinea Pig principal, always willing to help out. I really appreciate it. And so, Kevin, thank you, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, board. Thank you, community. Appreciate the time.
So as we end our hangout, there's a little phone button here. What's cool about all this is that those documents that we just worked on are already in my drive just moments ago. So our Google Hangout notes from tonight are there. It's not only is it my drive, but everyone on the Hangout, they have a copy of it, the shared document. And we can take the document and we can move it to offline mode, so that if you, as a teacher, you want to work on this offline, it's already has the word offline next to it. So I know that if I don't have internet access, I can still open this document offline. I can edit it offline, and the next time my Chromebook hits the internet, it'll update it on the drive. And so that was a big thing for us. The authentication is getting better and better. And the great thing is, because it's not the device that's important here, it's the operating system through the Chrome, that this is never out of date. Other devices, they date out. This device won't, because it'll always, because it operates based on a web, basis through the Chrome operating system, and so it'll always be current, it'll always be fresh. And the 3 years is the right length term on the lease, because the device
management piece that you talked about,
Yes.
how can that be used to shut down a device? What I'm thinking about is, you know, if somebody lost it or it was stolen and it became useless, you know, maybe that would deter that happening. But what can that
Sure.
management can
So
it shut it down?
correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna try to sound IT and smartish, and see if they can correct me if I'm wrong on this. They said that you have to have a GCS email and password to access the device. And so if someone gets hold of it, they don't have a GCS password or device, email address and password, they will not be able to use this device at all. It will be worthless to them.
Okay.
So yeah, so it'll be completely shut down if anyone out from that.
So are we setting aside funds for in 3 years from now when this device is no longer useful?
Yeah, so at the end of the 3-year term, we'll have the option of looking at buying the devices at fair market value, just like you would at a car lease.
Mm-hmm.
Or because we're going to build this into our budget, we continue to continue to have this as be considered kind of the cost of doing business. You know that, you know, of course, who knows what devices will be out.
That's right.
But this same kind of Chromebook might only cost $150. You know, they might have a Chromebook with a touchscreen, kind of an iPad and Chromebook combined together. They already have one in their Pixel, but you know that's not really an education pricing yet. And so you know, at the end of the 3 years, and really about 2 years from now, we'll have the same conversation. We'll say, okay, here we are, we're in the last year of our lease. What's our budget look like? What are our teachers already doing? What's the right device? 3 years from now, we might only have to have a BYOD device and be able to supply a tech tool closet where only a percentage of our kids need to get a one-to-one device. So, you know, it's the great thing is it gives us the flexibility where we can continue to look at those funds, look at those that ability as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Amy. Amy, let's say we're adopting a German book, okay? The cost of a hardback book as compared to the cost of an e-book. I know that has changed since I've been in the business. So what are you seeing on that now? I mean,
they're doing a much better job, and we saw this through this reading adoption, that in the past it had to be a one-to-one purchase for electronic
right.
access. Now it's if you buy 10 to 20 books, you'll get unlimited electronic access. So you're not having to buy the volume of the hardback books in order to get the volume of the electronic access. So either you can get the hard copies. Every one of them, you pretty much have to buy the hard copy, at least some portion of the hard copy, if you're not buying the full just volumes of the electronic. But you're not having to buy the one-to-one like you were in the past.
Right.
So the pricing has come down remarkably. You'll see that we are seeing a huge reduction in our elementary book rental. This has been just kind of a nice progression for us. And then electronically, just for an instance, for when you said just like German, a lot of our teachers are not wanting to adopt. They're wanting to use open source resources that are available.
Okay.
Right, just a couple of comments more so than questions. But first of all, this is pretty exciting stuff. I know I want to thank the students for coming in today, and I know we had a few bumps in the roads, but I use this technology every single day. You know, we collaborate on documents, 150 people, and it works flawlessly. Able to share documentation, able to look at mission-critical documents with people all over the world. So don't be discouraged about tonight, because I can attest that it works very, very, very well. And so you all will see that, you know, as you guys work out the bumps. But it's fascinating. And when you talk about the 21st century skills that are going to be needed, this is exactly what we're talking about. So I commend you all for the work that you've done, and just trust me, it works very, very well. So
You've been you've been more than thorough. I'm very impressed. I mean, I'm very impressed by the amount of work that's gone into making these decisions, as far as involvement of people, so I appreciate it very much.
I try to think when the approach and I appreciate the compliment. I went through this as a teacher, and kind of all of a sudden being told, hey, we're getting this device. I remember what I felt like to me as a teacher, and I'm not the kind of guy I roll with. Like, okay, fantastic. If they would have given me graphic calculator, I would have been excited. Anything they put my hand, I would be happy now. But at the same time, when I came to this, I wanted to make sure that I took that experience of going through the one-on-one position as well as a teacher. I wanted to do what I would have actually done with that.
And Brett mentioned before, Jason and Scott have just been instrumental in this, and we're so appreciative for them being here tonight too. So, Dr. Mullen,
Well, Board, obviously we're here to answer whatever questions you may have, but at least I'd like to bring on the table recommendations, specific recommendations that we would like you to consider. First of all, we would like you to approve or confirm the purchase of 700 Chromebooks for certified staff members. That allows those Chromebooks to get in the hands of our staff by that May 14th date. We'd also like you to authorize the purchase of 8,000 student Chromebooks through a 3-year lease agreement with DDI Leasing. That lease has been reviewed by Mrs. Lewis. We'd also like for you to approve an e-learning coach job description. And also, lastly, because that Common School Fund loan just became available this week and we didn't know about it until just this week, if you would please authorize us to apply for the Common School Fund loan. So there are 4 specific actions that we're recommending and asking you to consider tonight. And you can take them one at a time or all 4 together, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Mr. Hall, would you want to take them one at a time or all together?
All together.
Ms. Perkins? Mr. White?
All together.
Right. Mr. Pavey? Yes. All together, items 1 through 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make the motion? So moved. Thank you. And a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions, discussion, comments?
Well, one question, Amy. Clarify for me again what the cost is going to be for the parents.
Okay. Really, in the you'll see what the elementary is. It's $11.50 for parents in grades 3 through 5, and then they'll have an $8.50 charge that they've had existing right now for their technology curriculum, and we have that for K through 5. So you'll see on their book rental there's a $20 fee, but you'll see that they've had a complete reduction in their book rental total. So you'll see that. So the $11.50 will help offset the cost of this implementation.
Second question is, do they have the ability to opt out if they don't want to do that? For instance, let's say that we have a parent that doesn't want to do that, and if that's the case, do they have the ability to get a loaner at school? I mean,
they would have this would have they don't have to take it home. They can opt out of taking the unit home.
Okay.
But the price would still be
$11.50.
right.
Okay.
It's to have the units at school.
Okay.
Questions?
No, I just have a comment. I'm taking some e-learning classes through 5-Star, and through reading the information, a good analogy, and Mr. Clark's probably read this, but if you're a quarterback in football, and I'm sorry, Teresa, bring up athletics.
Me too.
But,
Me too.
But a quarterback in football, if he's making a pass, the pass should be out in front of the receiver, not to him, not behind him. And I think when it comes to technology, the device we give, we need to throw something out in front of our students. Don't hit them right now where they're at. Don't throw it behind them. And I think this is doing it. And I think it's a great move. I'm ready to go.
Mr. White, you have anything?
Just excited. I'm ready. Let's go.
Do you have any other questions, Teresa? No. Mrs. Kraft, any other questions?
I can't believe I'm agreeing with an athletic.
Analogy.
Write that down. Okay. Let's go.
Can't top that. So,
Well, I just want to point out that just last month we approved our strategic plan. And the number one goal under our facilities and technology piece was to be equitable in our access to technology all across the board. And within a month, we're not only doing that for grades 6 through 12, but 3 through 12. And in great part to the research that you all have done and being able to afford to do it at 3 through 12. And I just want to thank you for sticking with the strategic plan that we've brought forth, for all your hard work, for putting our students first and giving them the tools that they're going to need to be successful.
Nice job.
There's been a motion and a second, so I guess we're ready to take a vote. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Satterley would have been proud, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Devin and Dylan, thank you so much, and Ms. Dyer.
Board, and I know we've talked a lot about this, but I think that what I've really liked is how this has been facilitated, and everyone, we've engaged a lot of people in the process. We haven't engaged everyone, but we've engaged a lot of people representing all different groups, and so I really appreciate the efforts that have gone forth by our staff to make that happen, and greatly appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to this relationship moving forward with Google, and I think there's a lot of exciting things ahead, so thank you.
Elementary book rental.
Go ahead.
As we kind of mentioned before, we have been in the process of trying not to adopt textbooks as much as possible. We were forced, and we brought that up last month, into reading adoption because of our iRead scores. And so the new adoption does reflect a textbook for reading as we were required to. However, our math adoption has been and was a continued adoption of an older book. Our primary grades have been using consumable books that have increased in expense. And so what we surveyed our teachers, and although it was a close vote, we decided not to renew that. The costs were up to $55 and $60 a book for that, and instead we have master copies, and we're going to be utilizing just our copying costs are lower in the district, so we have Blackline Masters that they are able to use. Our teachers have been using our Gold Clarity windows. They're using other resources outside of a standard textbook, and so that's allowed us to reduce a lot of the cost in our textbooks. So we're presenting a reduced textbook cost for our elementary, and hopefully our parents will be pleased.
What happened to science and social studies?
Science and social studies, we did a continued adoption with them as well, and we have existing classroom sets. With the adoption of the technology, we have some live streaming that we do in the district that are better resources for the teachers. So with the classroom sets, and we're redistributing texts that we have in the district to make sure every classroom has those classroom sets.
So what were they getting in social studies and science that they won't be? I mean, the cost for science, say first grade was $660, and now it's $0. So
they were getting the Scholastic. It was like a Scholastic weekly reader that was like a science
consumable.
Right, and it was going up to $9.
Okay.
Again, we could get online resources better.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the proposed fees?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any other questions? All in favor? 6-0. Thank you.
I think what you'll see, Board, too, is over time, as we discussed, I think less and less in terms of the hard copy textbooks and utilizing the technology. So it's our hope that, I think very little cost is going into it for the technology toward our parents. But we're trying to continue to bring those fees down as much as we can. I appreciate the work that was done to get that accomplished.
I appreciate the fact that our teachers agreed that we didn't have to buy workbooks anymore. I've never been a real fan of those or dittos, but
It's been great.
That's exciting. Thank you.
Online registration.
We have had Power School in place now for several years, and we are finally to a full implementation point for online electronic registration. And we've never taken all of this to the board for approval, but we are ready to go as of Monday to open up early registration. And with your approval, we only made some changes to some of our online forms. Mostly language that with our statewide credit, you've approved our payment agreements before. They're just in electronic format now, so we wanted to go ahead and bring them to you as what they look like on electronically, and let you know that we would like to open our open enrollment beginning Monday, and hopefully next year then we have the process all cleaned up that we can open enrollment even earlier, beginning next year. So we're ready to go. We're all tech tonight, so we're ready to go if you are.
Now, Amy, when I open that up, I don't have to lay on my side.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
you don't.
All right.
It will
all
come
right.
up nice and clean. I
All
appreciate
right.
Connie Pavey, Steve Cook have just worked tirelessly. Aaron Bahork has. This has been a community effort. It has taken a village to get this one up and running. So, and then we're turning it over to Travis next year. So he doesn't know that yet.
Then it'll be back the other way.
He knows now.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Perkins. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor of going to full enrollment via Power School? All right. That's 6-0. Next is the acceptance of the Innovation Grant Award. I don't know that this one's going to be too much of a problem, but
We are very excited to say that we are a recipient for a second year of a $305,000 grant. We're thrilled. To date, we have received $585,743 in grant funding, and it's targeted. Teresa, you brought up work with curriculum and instruction, and this is really where teachers are making decisions on what resources. They're not relying on the textbook. The focus of this particular grant is really the integration of technology into the transition of Common Core into curriculum development. So with your approval, we will accept these dollars graciously.
is there a motion? Ms. Perkins, and a second, Mrs. Kraft. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Great work.
Thank you.
All in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Next we have e-learning regional conference spotlight speaker, and that's Mr. Kyle Pace.
Again, this is the second contract I believe we've brought forward, just of another great speaker that we have. I think Brett mentioned his expertise with Google. A perfect speaker for our conference. We would just like board approval for his contract.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other questions? All in favor? All right, 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last, we have a long-term beverage contract with Coca-Cola.
Okay. What we're asking tonight is, we had a long-term beverage contract proposal. Our Coca-Cola contract is going to expire, and we've actually published the request for proposal on March 7th, 14th. We actually had two companies come in with bids, Coke and Pepsi. Coca-Cola basically blew Pepsi away. We're going to end up getting $15,000 per year out of their marketing money. I don't think we've ever gotten that before. So for 4 years, we're going to get an extra $15,000 per year. We're also going to get $2,000 donated to the educational fund or educational foundation per year. So that's another $8,000. We only get $1,500 for the high school events. It's just a one-time shot, $1,500 per year, where Pepsi would give us $4,000. Middle school events, we don't get anything. It's just all in the high school. Pepsi would give us $1,000. We would end up getting 250 free cases of product from Pepsi, and we get $1,000 worth of product at Coke. Case rebate, Coca-Cola really blew them away. It was almost double, 96 cents to 50 cents. And then the commission was close. It was 28% versus 25%. Now the commission will decrease on Coca-Cola 1% per year, so it'll drop to 24% by the fourth year. Coca-Cola also has a growth incentive of $3,000 per year if we can increase our volume by 10% or more. What we're asking permission tonight is to allow Mrs. Lewis and I to contact Coke now and start working on a contract, and we'll bring that back to you for approval at a future board meeting.
Is there a motion? Mrs. Kraft, second. Mr. White, thank you. Any questions?
I just have a comment. I don't work for Coca-Cola, but let me just say, if you're drinking a diet, then aspartame is in all the other products, including Pepsi, and Coca-Cola is the only one that makes the diet product with Splenda. I just thought that was interesting. So, if you're a health freak like some of us are, or just a freak.
I am too.
Like
But I'm more interested in the numbers.
I'm just saying, you would be, but I would be interested. Okay.
But I was somewhat disappointed we didn't get more marketing money, but that's the way Coke and Pepsi have been doing it. I used to get $250,000 for 4 years in marketing money, and the last 2 times I've done it, it's only been about $60,000, $70,000 for 4 years. Plus, we'll have a 4-year renewal to it also. Mr. Hall?
The question I had, I don't know, we'll wait till the contract comes back or ask it now. Where does this commission, rebate, profit, what's it used for here at the corporation?
Well, if it's through Aramark, it goes back into our food service account. If it's at the school, because of their machines, like we have one here, it goes to that individual location to be used at that location. So the principal then could use it for incentives, things of that nature, for the students, for the staff. Depends if the machine is out in the public where students can get to it, then technically any money generated from that machine goes to the students. If it's in a teacher's lounge and only teachers have access to it and no students have access to it, then it could be considered teacher money.
I understand that. The question I had, the $15,000 that's gave to Greater Clark, where does that money go?
That'll come here to the corporation.
And let me address that. We need to have a fund that allows us to advertise and market our school corporation. The State Board of Accounts allows us, in our general fund, it allocates only $1 per student up to $12,500. We have 10,500 students, so in our general fund, technically we would have $10,500 to use for promotional marketing advertising within the general fund. That's not enough money. So what we're trying to do now with the marketing dollars, this will be seed money, we'll be able to start another fund that will, all these dollars will feed into it, and so now when it comes time for us to talk about marketing, advertising dollars, that's something that Aaron will be able to have access to, of course, working through Dr. Deichel and myself. But that's where these marketing dollars need to come, because we don't have the ability, we don't have funds set up within our general fund to be able to do that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's where it will go.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's 6-0. Thank you. We don't have any discussion items this evening, correct? We have board reports or requests. Mr. Hall, do you have anything?
Nope.
Ms. Perkins?
Well, I had the great opportunity today to attend Maple Street School and meet the First Lady of Indiana, Ms. Pence, and I appreciated that. Our students the students at Maple were just incredibly cute and knowledgeable, and they just made me proud. And I thank both of the newspapers, the CJ and the Tribune, News and Tribune, for being there, as well as one of our TV stations, and it was great fun.
Good deal. Mr. White?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Kraft?
Thank you.
Mr. Pavey?
I have nothing.
All right. I have two things, just real quickly. One, not Friday 3 days ago, but Friday 10 days ago, Dr. Mellon and I had an opportunity to sit with West Clark, Clarksville, and New Albany Floyd as well as some of our legislators. Senator Ron Grooms was there, Representative Claire, and Representative Stimler. And I felt like that we had some really good dialogue, that they were reaching out and truly asking and wanting our opinion and wanting to know how some of their decisions affect us as a school corporation, how they affect our students. And so we had some really good dialogue, and I wanted to report that to you all. Probably one of the biggest things that we discussed were the SRO position, the school resource officer position, and you all saw that that was amended and then sent back. Some of those amendments came from our conversation. And then also one of the other things that we talked about in great detail were TIF funds. And there's legislation, if passed, that will actually give us as school board representatives a voting seat on those redevelopment boards, which would be amazing, because right now it's kind of just a ornamental thing. You know, we sit there and we can speak, but we have no bite, we have no vote. And so if that legislation is passed effective July 1st, we will be voting members on those boards. And so we had some really good discussion about that as well. Did you want to add anything about that, Dr. Mellon, before I move on?
I just appreciated all the superintendents were invited to attend as well. So I felt we really were working as a team of educators, talking about all the issues. So I appreciated that fact. And I think the next one that's going to be held, our superintendents will also be part of that with our school board representatives. So I thought it was a really productive meeting and look forward to future opportunities.
Also, you know, our first meeting of the new year, we had some committee assignments, and 3 of those have changed. Mrs. Kraft was originally appointed to be our ISBA legislative liaison. Well, she has served 2 years in that capacity, and that's the kind of the length of time that they allow you to serve. So Mr. Hall was originally set up to be on the nominating committee, and then Mr. White was originally set up to be our parent advisory committee liaison. So through conversations with all of us and getting everything switched around, now Mrs. Kraft is going to take the parent advisory board committee appointment. Mr. Hall will take the ISBA legislative appointment, and I had served on the ISBA nominating committee for 2 years, and I was actually asked by Frank Bush to chair that moving forward. So we just kind of all took different places, and Jerry was very gracious to give up his responsibility on the advisory board to Mrs. Kraft so that she could serve, and I think that would be a great place for her. She'll be able to keep those parents in line and help them be better parents, I'm sure. But I wanted to thank you all for your graciousness and your patience in getting all that lined out. It didn't go down the way we thought it was going to, but we've got it all ironed out, and so I just wanted to report that publicly and thank you all for being patient while we got it all ironed out. That's my report, so we'll move on to strategic plan.
And board, I know we've been here a long time, and there are 4 more reports to be provided, so I think what we'll all do is we'll try to provide. There's been a lot of work done, so we want to be able to make some comment, but we'll also try to be respectful of time. What I did, and it's here, you have a hard copy of it, and also it's provided here up on the display. I just wanted you to get a quick feel for the things within our strategic plan. Of course, Mrs. Gilkey mentioned that last month you approved this. I wanted you to know the work that's either been done or we're doing related to the plan. So in finance, you can see I've put in bold things that we are actively doing currently. Under finance, you see that 8% cash balance in the district's general fund. We have reviewed staffing and benefits to improve efficiencies. That's how we've been able to make some staffing decisions related to next year. Dr. Deichel is in the process of conducting a study of the financial impact of outsourcing in those identified areas. The process has begun. Of course, when he gets to the point where we feel we can bring that forward, we will. But he has begun the process. In Goal 2, the 5% cash balance in the rainy day fund, again, you have the same kinds of things occurring. in action step 1 and 2. In goal 3, Greater Clark County Schools will be fiscally mindful stewards. We are in the process of being able to showcase data dashboards. It is our hope to be able to have those publicly ready to roll around the 1st of May. As you scroll down through, if you go into the public relations and marketing, we'll improve our community perception, and with a goal to increase student population by 1% each year. We are in the process of developing a process of developing a marketing plan. We'll be meeting with someone here locally, a marketing agency, a marketing firm that will help come in and just sort of consult with us initially. Have a conversation as we develop the plan. Mrs. Bajorquez will lead that effort and that initiative, but we have started that process. I have started to do an analysis of families that have left our school corporation, and I hope to bring that back to you here before the end of the school year. We're also going to have to poll them eventually to figure out how we can get better and make sure that they don't feel like they can leave us to go to another school corporation. And number 5, we're working with our technology department to redesign the district's website. In fact, what you've already done, board, tonight is you have approved a position as a web and video coordinator for our school corporation, and that individual, I think, will start in this week, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be ready to go to update and start working on upgrading our websites and producing videos. And we're getting those dollars from our capital projects fund, in that we're not renewing a software purchase of $70-some thousand per year. And instead, we're going to pay this position about $40,000 per year. So we're saving $30,000 in the capital projects fund in controlling web and video coordination, which we think is good for our district. Number 2, we're trying to expand and enhance partnerships. You can see a lot of things that we've been doing, like the school messengers, our listening sessions. All of us have been working hard to get out there in front of the public and tell the good news stories of Greater Clark County schools. So we feel that we're making inroads there. And Aaron is in the process of identifying current established partnerships and corporation supporters. That's in goal 3. Action step 1. In facilities and technology, we've accomplished, as has been pointed out already, we are in the process of conducting a survey. We'll be putting those out and making those available before the end of the school year. We're going to do it using technology as opposed to hard copies as much as possible. We've talked about the one-to-one program, the e-learning coaches. Number 6. Number 9. We really need to start looking at our IT support and how does it match what we're doing, because we want to make sure we're providing adequate support as we're increasing our technology efforts. So we have to start looking and researching that, and that will be worked on. Goal number 2, promote a safe environment for our students. As you know, all the work that we've been doing there, thanks to Travis Hare and Chris Ralston and many of our other staff, Steve Hobgood, Tom Deichel, in that regard, as we've been trying to improve our safety efforts. In student achievement instruction, I won't go over all the details. You can read it in bold, but we have a lot of initiatives, impact program, literacy. Things are either implemented or will be implemented for next year. A lot of work being done by a lot of people in that regard already. 21st Century Scholar is something that we've met with a representative of this region. We are really going to make a concentrated effort there to make sure every student that is eligible for the 21st Century Scholar program is going to be signed up, and we're going to be monitoring that using our counselors going through that process. So,
didn't I see that the monies for the 21st Century Scholars Program was going to be cut?
The representative said that there's $50-some million available, and what they're doing is they're redesigning how they're going to fund the 21st Century. The money will be there. It may not be as great as it used to be, but the representative shared with us that there is $50-some million that's been allocated to the program, but they do have to be careful with how they're funding it because it's a pretty expensive program.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll try to give you more details on it later. We're going to study preschool. We have to set that up. I guess, Board, I wanted you to see, I could go and talk a lot more, but we have a lot of people that have done a lot of good work, and so we're trying to do everything we can to honor the strategic plan, and we'll continue to keep you updated on a monthly basis. Didn't know if you had any questions or...
Thank you for the update.
Welcome.
We keep seeing more bowls. That's good.
That's the goal.
All right. We don't have any policy review for this evening, so we'll go ahead and move into budget review.
Okay, first one up is the general fund. We do have now our approved budget for 2013. We have updated the forms as such, and you can see up on the screen. We're looking at a revenue for 13 of $66,853,000. We're still looking at expenditures of about $69,550,000. So we're looking at an overall deficit of almost $2 million, which is a lot less than the 2.5 or 7 million that we had last year. That's good news, but we're still in the red. If you look at debt service, all we did was update the revenue and the expenditures there. There's really nothing. Same thing on pension. Capital projects now, the next three are going to have some concern for us. When you look at capital projects, we are approved for $8,707,000. We're actually going to spend $8,130,000. So we're going to be in the red. We're going to be in the black by about $13,000 if we spend every dime in this budget. One of the big problems that we're having in this budget and the next two is the circuit breaker. We're going to lose $1,515,000. We're going to lose $2,488,000 projected. Plus, we don't know where our property tax collection is going to be. I'm assuming collecting 100%. Maybe that's wrong. But right now, until we get to June, when we get our first half collection, we should be close to 50% of half of this money. We'll see. So right now, it's going to be very tight in capital projects. Transportation operating, we are approved for $5,126,000. We're going to have expenditures of $4,635,000, and then on top of that, take off another $862,000 for tax caps again. So we're looking at a projected $166,000 in the red, which will have to come out of the rainy day fund if we don't make changes between now and the end of the year. Bus replacement fund, we were approved for $618,000. We're actually going to spend about $781,000. Plus we have tax caps of $106,000 that we're going to lose. So we're looking at about $185,000 in the red, and we're not even buying buses. All we're doing is just paying the contractor drivers out of this fund. So when you look at the rainy day fund, you know, we did move $500,000 back into the rainy day fund, so we do have a hefty cash balance of $3,700,000 that will be used up by the end of the year. So.
Board, if you don't mind, too, I think it's just really important as I go out in the community and I talk about our financial situation. You know, we're reducing staffing, both administratively in terms of our teachers. It's going to be amount to approximately $3 million of reduced expenditures. Then all of a sudden we're approving $1 million per year in the computer one-to-one initiative, and sometimes people have real difficulty with understanding, well, how can you reduce your staff and yet you're buying computers? And it's just really important that everyone understand that these are different silos of money, and we are never ever going to buy computers out of funds in which we could have staff. So it's hard for people to understand, and I know that, but I think it's important we say it publicly, that we're being very, very cautious, and Dr. Deichels done an outstanding job of where are we getting the dollars that we can to pay for what we need, and always keeping in mind that we need to take good care of our kids and we need to take good care of our staff. So I just thought it was important to note that as we're making this expenditure for computers, they're coming from funds that we can't use to pay for staff.
That's why we're going with Visa and MasterCard from now on.
Let me just add that you didn't, and that is contract drivers cost a lot less money for a school corporation than corporation drivers, because contract drivers have their own buses, they buy their own insurance, they buy their own gas, and you don't buy any of that. So you forgot to say that, dear. I just needed to.
Well, we have a fuel adjustment.
Yes.
So we do pay for the gas.
Yes. Well,
we do pay for all that other stuff.
Usually there's no adjustment there. Usually there's no money there.
Okay.
So speaking from 30 years of experience, I know this too. But it sounded unfair when you said it's just for contract drivers. Actually, they're much cheaper because you don't have to buy the bus, and you don't have to buy the insurance, and you don't have to buy the gas.
But it's all,
or the maintenance.
But it's all included in that.
Okay, I'm just saying. We'll have this argument later.
Okay.
And you're bigger than I am, but I'm louder.
We'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
Okay. That was just a report, just to give you any questions on the financial situation. We're monitoring it monthly, see where it's going. Okay.
So, Dr. Dykle, the two funds that we're projecting to be in the red, what processes are you using to make sure that we don't end up in the red?
Well, let me go through the transportation update.
Okay.
Dr. Mellon asked me to give you an update as far as what's happening in transportation so far. The board has given us permission to upgrade our VersaTrans system, our student software system, which we've done. Ken Watson joined our transportation department as a computer specialist at the end of February. In March, VersaTrans trained our employees for 2 days and discovered that we had over 15,000 names in our database against an enrollment of just over 10,000. The extra names have been removed. Our map in the school district had so many inaccuracies that we had to have VersaTrans rebuild the map. I was out there one day, and Ken was actually taking each street and overlapping one map to another and then drawing our map so that it would match up with the Bing map. And then I said, how long is that going to take you? He said, probably a year. It's like, oh my God. You know, how many streets do we have in Clark County that we would have to do this? So we went back to VersaTrans and paid some more money to have them do the map, which they'll do it in 3 weeks, and then download it to our system. We also, I talked to you about GPS systems. We purchased 5 GPS units. We looked at Synovia, VersaTrans, and Geotab through Sprint, and we liked Geotab the best, and they were $169 a piece for the unit, and then there was like a $34 a month charge for the data line. So we bought 5 of them, and then the guys in transportation were so excited about the data that they were getting from these Geotabs, and Sprint had a deal where if we would buy them by the end of March, we would get them for $69 a piece instead of $169. So I bought 100 of them. Saved us $10,000. Ken, I don't know, Ken, are you done installing all of them now? Okay. Ken is actually out there installing these units in the buses. The data that we are gathering on these buses is just amazing. We've never seen this before. We're able to monitor the speed, the direction. We could see if the flashers are working. Anything possible on a bus. We could actually look at if a bus is, the miles per gallon is way low. Is it because the driver has a heavy foot? Are they using too much of the brakes? I mean, it'll save us money in the long run just by addressing some of these things. Then we could also look at idling. You know, how long are these buses idling? Especially in the summertime or early good weather, they shouldn't be idling at all. We can start stopping that immediately. Every hour a bus idles, that's 1 gallon of fuel that we're using. Ken and Gary and I met with our video company 24/7, who sold us a lot of the cameras for the buses, and found out that some of the units were not recording, wires were switched, bad hard drives, filters plugged with dust, dirt, etc. All the videos have been inspected and repaired, so we do have working videos on all of our buses now. Currently, we are correcting addresses in our student management system to make sure that they are correct, because if you put it in that you live on Holman's Lane and it's really Holman Street, it's going to come out as a reject. So we have to make sure all of those are input correctly, which is going to take some time. Another function that we purchased from VersaTrans is when a parent goes to our our website. We're going to try to get this on for the beginning of next school year. If they type in their address, it'll show the bus number that they should be picked up on, and also the time of day that the bus should be approximately at their house, which I think is a great thing. Also, we talked to Geotab or Sprint to say one of the things I would like to see is if our buses are running late for any reason, could they send a text message to the parent along that route? That would be something to work on. I think that would really be something nice. We're working on that. We will try to reduce as many bus routes as possible. We are combining some routes, but it's on an annual basis. We know how many buses have low enrollment or ridership. We're trying to consolidate those manually. Ken's been doing a great job on that. And I just want to share with you, I got an email this afternoon from Ken. It says, just to let you know, Brian in the garage said that he had to start the entire fleet of buses several times and let them run during the summer to keep the batteries charged. I have set up Geotab to notify him by text message when the battery voltage drops below 11.5. This will prevent battery drainage if the lights are left on and allow the mechanics to start only the buses that have low voltage during the summer. Brian said this should save a great deal of money in fuel, time, and batteries. It's paying off. So will we see hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings? Maybe not this year, but I expect by this time next year we should be able to start reducing the bus routes, and we should start seeing some savings where I can start buying some buses.
Now, what have you done to encourage people to drive a bus?
What have I done to encourage them? We have signs up asking for them. I mean, we offer great benefits. Salary's pretty good. I'll bake them a cake. I mean, I don't know what else to do.
It's a serious problem.
It is. It's serious for everybody. Every school corp that I deal with, up north, down here, it's all the same. Bus drivers are hard to come by.
It's very difficult to discipline 50 kids in a mirror. It's very, very difficult.
I've watched many videos of some of those things. Some people are just oblivious to what's happening behind them. Some people are constantly looking back and forth, trying to monitor what's going on in their bus.
And some people hear everything, like this person.
You know, a couple of things real quickly, too, is that with Mr. Green, we're working on a bus conduct policy. You know, we want to make sure that we look at that, and we need to make sure it's consistent across our entire school system. So that has to occur. And then there needs to be more training provided for our drivers as well, related to how to deal with different things that are occurring on the bus and the different students that they're confronting. So those are things, in addition to all these other aspects, those are things that we're also working on to put in place for next year. So hopefully that will help in regard to how we manage students on the bus and so on.
And it's real important that the school support the driver. That's very important.
Oh, yeah. We've heard that.
With all this cleanup with Versatrans and the student data information, will every bus driver have a complete list of their students and contact information, emergency contact?
Which is what we don't have right now.
Right. Ms. Kraft brought that to our attention earlier, and I'm just asking, will we have it at the start of school?
Well, if we can get all those addresses correct, we should, because there's about 2,000 kids we didn't know where they go because the address was wrong. So will it be 100% accurate? No, but we should be able to be pretty accurate as far as who's riding that bus. Right now, we really don't know who's riding the bus for the most part. Thank you for letting us use Versatrans, and we'll bring some more information. Maybe we could actually bring some information on Geotab and share it with you.
Thank you for the update.
Okay.
I read.
You do?
Every day.
Every day.
We read.
Every day. We just wanted to give you an update of the results that we have from this year. This is our second year to officially give the required I Read 3 assessment as part of Public Law 109 that requires the evaluation of reading skills for students who are in grade 3, and that began last year in the spring of 2012. We'll go to next, and we tried to make this as clean as possible. We wanted to give you a comparison between 2012 and 2013. Last year we tested 798 students. 672 of those students passed in the district the first time for a pass rate of 84.2%. The state goal is that 90% pass on the first round. We always strive for the state goal, but instructionally for our students, we kind of focus on our core. We want to make sure our core instruction is reaching 80% of our students the first round. So that's kind of our first temperature check. Our second check is then meeting all of those state goals. So right now we're looking 80%. We're capturing our 80%. Now we've got to look at what our intervention, and that's our impact program, how our impact program, and you'll kind of see in 2013 that these students who did not pass in this year, we've making sure that all of these kids are involved in an intervention. So this year we tested more students, 10 more students, 808 students, and of those 673 passed for an 83.3%. So again, we're almost holding steady there. And you'll see there's not consistency necessarily between the schools. The numbers, when we've gone through, 1 to 2 kids can make a huge difference in these numbers because you're just looking at one class. And when you do percentages like this, when we've gone through and sat down with each of the principals, which we've almost made it through all of these elementaries, we'll find that they may have 3 or 4 additional special needs students in a particular class, or English language learners who their population in that particular, or demographic in that particular class this year is just a little bit larger than it was last year, kind of caused the skew in their numbers. No excuses or anything like that, but it's just the question of they may need additional time, and the test is given at the same time every year. Again, it's just kind of your philosophy, but from our perspective, again, we look at that. We want to make sure we're capturing at least 80% or more and hitting that target, then again keeping the goal in mind of the 90% for our students, or the state results. Our next steps, as always with these results, we, number one, as an instructional cabinet, have been working really since January on making sure that we have a consistent literacy program in the district. We've had a lot of very different trainings going on in the buildings, primarily because in the past we've had some schools with Title I programming that have had hours and hours of professional development and training that some of our other schools have not had. So we've had just varied experience in terms of instructional training, and we want to make sure that all of our teachers are speaking the same language. And we think it's critical, and I think all of our teachers will agree that it's so important for our kids to experience consistent common language when it comes to literacy. And every teacher is a teacher of literacy. If I'm a math teacher, there's a vocabulary, there's a language that goes with math, and they need to know those strategies that can be used to enhance those literacy skills. So we're working on rolling that out as well. For intervention, again, we're in the making sure that all of those students who did not pass are involved in impact, and that impact, they'll have summer school, an additional 20-hour summer school that we will be bringing to you at our May board meeting through collaborative effort with communities and schools again. It's not a very long summer school program, but it's kind of our first step into our next year with our balanced calendar and providing that additional instructional time that we want. And then finally, our retest window. Our summer school window, it looks like, will just be that 1 week of 20 hours. The summer retest window opens June 3rd. So our summer school window will open June 3rd, go till June 7th, and the kids will test, those third graders will test on that June 7th. They'll have the results back that next week, the 10th.
Board, I'll just also add real quickly, Spring Hill had 96.7% of their students pass IREAD. Spring Hill. Utica had 96.3%. I think what it shows, too, and it's a different group every year, we understand that, but I think what it shows is that it doesn't matter what the demographic, good things are happening in our school system. And there have been drastic improvements, again, at certain buildings. And so there's going to be some fluctuation group by group because we're just measuring a separate group 1 year at a time. But there are positives that you take out of this. And I think with an impact program that we've just put in place starting in January, a year from now, it is our hope that you'll see some growth from a system-wide perspective related to iRead.
Amy, are there any students exempt from taking iRead?
You are not exempt from taking it except for IMAS students who would be, iStar students. We're very careful with students. We want to make sure that as many kids take it, just for information for our teachers, but we also try not to push to beyond what their frustration realm is. We also have conversations with our teachers about when's the appropriate time if they do have to retest. We want to make sure that their remediation time, if summer is not the right time for them to retest, or that June window, they can retest at any point through the summer. So if they need extended time or are getting services elsewhere, they can retest at the beginning of next school year or at a different point during the school year, the following school year. So there are opportunities for them.
I know that one of the purposes of having the iRead 3 was to make sure that our students statewide were reading on grade level before they were passed on to the 4th grade.
Correct.
Do we use these results to make those decisions, or?
Yes, we do. We've used transition. We have some transition classes, a couple students, and when we're talking less than a handful of students. But as Dr. Mullins talked about before, when they get to this point, these are individual case-by-case placements of what's appropriate for a particular student. For the most part, within 1 to 2 retest times, we've captured most of the kids who will take it, or through IEP adjustments or placements, their needs are being met.
The other thing, too, Board, I just really believe that in the future, as we keep progressing, we don't want to worry about iRead 3 results. We want all of our kids reading at that level, but we want to know that, after kindergarten. We want our kindergarten students to come out of kindergarten reading at level. That is our primary goal. 1st grade, there should not be an issue for us because our focus needs to start with those kids with full-day kindergarten, coming out of kindergarten, able to read at level. That's the key. We shouldn't be waiting until 3rd grade to worry about this. We shouldn't worry at all about it. It should just be like a walk in the park for our kids. So we really need to work hard, and that's what we've been talking about as a district at those younger levels, especially K and 1, to make sure those kids are ready. We'll keep working on that.
Well, we'd all like to see 100% in that percent passing, but I'm impressed with these numbers. I think it's very good for our district.
It represents a lot of hard work on teachers and our building principals.
Yes, it does.
So
thank you, Amy. All right, we are to board comments. Mr. Hall, you have anything?
Nope.
Ms. Perkins?
I already made my comment.
Thank you. Mr. White?
No, I'm just excited about everything I've heard tonight and everything we've acted on. I think things are great. I'm just really pumped up about all this. So.
Mrs. Kraft?
Gosh, I'm afraid to say anything. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Pavey?
Well, again, Dr. Mellon, thanks again for all the bold on the strategic plan. I mean, we talked about a lot of things tonight, but what I'm most impressed about is that you're kind of hitting on all cylinders. I mean, we continue to see more bold. I mean, you're hitting a lot of different areas, and I think everything's going to begin to come together as you begin to put these initiatives in place. So I compliment your staff, the folks out in the schools that are getting it done, and this is a really good news story. So thank you for your work.
Dr. Mellon?
Well, thank you, Board, and I think what I'm most excited about, to be honest, is I love the fact that we're all of us in our school system are rallying together to work as one for our kids. And even though we may have some differences along the way, if we're always keeping our kids first, I think you can't lose on that. And we've got a great team that's doing great things. So I did want to mention I had the opportunity today to attend a trip to Evansville for Prosser. Prosser is looking at a potential renovation of their facility. We went to Evansville. They have a state-of-the-art facility there. Probably as part of a team of 30-some people representing our region to go. We'll keep you updated on that as we go down the road. Last night we appreciate the Jeff City Council voting to approve another SRO for our school corporation. We appreciate that very much. Chief Grimm, our Jeff Police Force has been outstanding, great partners for us. Lieutenant Cleveland is in the back, being very patient tonight. Also, Lieutenant Settles, tremendous support there from our SROs, so we're looking forward to having a third. The Charlestown City Council also approved their SRO, so now in Charlestown we'll have the existing sheriff that's at our high school, but we'll also have a Charlestown police officer there. So, we're making those efforts, getting those great partnerships from Charlestown City Council and Jeff City Council for safety reasons. And lastly, I just need to say that I'll try to be very quick, but we've made great efforts. We talked about marketing and promotions. Erin, in her role, Travis, our team, we've had kindergarten teachers. Our camp kindergarten, we had 433 students and families attend camp kindergarten this week, 433. And we have 424 kindergarten students already registered for next school year. And so those numbers, 489. So the numbers are growing. But think about that. I mean, we're already planning and looking forward. But the efforts of all these people, and thanks to the partnership of Communities and Schools and PNC, every student that attended camp kindergarten received one of these shirts, which is, Grow Success, Greater Clark County Schools Grow Success, outstanding. With on the back, you've got the sponsors. Every student got that also.
Does that say class of 2026?
Yes.
Wow.
And lastly, every family also received this booklet that was put together. Aaron coordinated. Travis was part of it. We had kindergarten teachers. But this is outstanding.
This is first class.
This is really outstanding work that was done. And so again, it only happens when all of us work together to benefit kids. And so I want to thank everyone associated. Camp Kindergarten is and everything we've done related to this is a huge undertaking, well worth it, but it's a lot of work. And I'm just very proud of what we've put forth there. So, board, we have a couple copies here that we can. If you all have it, thank you.
Yeah, we are.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for doing that.
Is that it?
I think so.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. White. I need a second. Mr. Hall, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?